Unlike the kids of today coming up in the NO, the kids all played outside, playing games such as Cool Can, Googie, Pitch to the Line, Run, Catch, Get a Little Bit, and Stick 'em, where you keep the marbles that you shoot out of the circle. If you're not familiar with any of these games, you're not from the same era. The older you got, the more serious the games will become. Before you knew it, you would be in your preteen years. The game you would play now will be called the dope game. Washington, Big Walsh, McCaskill will start toting that iron between the ages of 11 and 12. Walsh will start hustling as a young teen and would later graduate to crushing his ops. Big Walsh will ultimately end up being hooked on the 11.5. Walsh wasn't originally from 3NG, but would start hanging on the set after getting a pass while he was incarcerated. In the 90s, Walsh will crush Carlton Rose. He was arrested for the crime but would beat the charge. In 2002, although Walsh was not the trigger man, he would play a role in taking the life of Alexis Lamb Williams, who was under that Calio flag. False reports and rumors would surface from people who were not at the scene. They would make up stories claiming that the taking of Slam's life was applauded and cheered. In 2011, Walsh would be the driver when the life of Floyd Moore was taken. Moore will be hit 52 times. On September 14th, 2011, Walsh would crush Michael Marshall, who was cooperating with them people on a drug case. 2 weeks after crushing Marshall, Walsh would delete Lester, aka Fat Man Allen. In November of 2011, Walsh would crush Lester Foster before Lester could retaliate for the crushing of Fat Man. Having two brothers out of the St. Bernard, Walsh would have ties to both the 9th and 7th wards. Knowing that hitters were looking to crush Big Walsh, Washington McCaskill would also go by the name Dumpling. Let's take it back to right after Hurricane Katrina. Walsh, who was an alleged member of 3NG, would be on the scene when Stephen S.K. Kennedy was smashed in retaliation for Slim. Big Walsh had just rolled in from New Orleans. He would join Freaky Rico Jackson, Snoog, and his brother at the Studio Plus in a room that lovely Arthur Bernard had gotten on a Katrina voucher. While waiting on SK, who had just hit a lick in ATL, Freaky's Nextel phone would be chirped.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
The men who chirped the phone would warn Walsh and Freaky that their homie was about to be crushed. Freaky would run out of the room, gunfire would ensue. Walsh would accidentally graze the female Arthur Bernard as she came through the door of the hotel room. Frantically running out of the room, Walsh would learn that Jerome Man Hampton had already crushed SK. In 2011, Narkey Hunter, Charles Buck Anderson, Tyrone T-Bone Knockham, and Terrius T. Red Oni, all gang associates of Washington Big Walsh McCaskill, would commit a double shooting in the Calio housing project. The men would open fire at Emmett Allen from two vehicles on Erato Street, one being a Chevy Tahoe that was owned by Charles Buck Anderson. Emmett Allen would be hit and injured, while young Kiara Holmes would lose her life from a stray bullet.
We're here tonight because little Kiara Holmes' life was taken senselessly 2 days ago on Erato Street at around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. In that same shooting, 19-year-old Emmett Allen was severely wounded, and he's still listed in critical condition. I can tell you now that 23-year-old Narkey Hunter, who we believe is one of the gunmen who opened fire on Erato Street Sunday, is in the custody of the NOPD and has been so since earlier today. Hunter was picked up by members of the U.S. Marshals Task Force this morning at a house on Wright Avenue in Terrytown. I can also tell you now that 26-year-old Charles Anderson is believed to have been another person of interest in this shooting on Sunday. And I can tell you that for two reasons: the tremendous work of the detectives and the tremendous work of our new firearms lab and the work that we're able to do to secure ballistic evidence. Finally, the NOPD is looking for 24-year-old Terrius Oni, who is a person of interest in the shooting from Erato Street and also has a separate warrant for his arrest for the aggravated assault committed the day before against Emmett Allen and Kareem Dahl.
The license plate of Buck's Chevy Tahoe will be identified by witnesses and given to the NOPD. It wouldn't be long before Tyrone T-Bone Knockham will be charged and convicted of the crime.
The show in the St. Roch neighborhood. This is a live look now at the scene.
Police tell us the victim was found with an apparent gunshot wound. Again, this is near the same spot where police were investigating a triple shooting that left 2 people dead in Mid-City just last night. Of course, we'll continue to update you on that story. Obviously, the coroner van just pulling up in that area.
In the NO, nicknames would often be given based on a physical attribute, material possessions, something you have done in the streets, or a childhood name that has stuck with you. Charles Buck Anderson will be known as Buck with the truck due to the Chevy Tahoe that he owned. It is this Chevy Tahoe that will cost Buck his life. The 3NG gang, which gets its name from the streets 3rd and Galvez that they were pumping on, demanded respect. It was either roll with them or get rolled over. Identifying Buck as the weakest link and afraid that he would snitch, Big Walsh would murk him to get him out of the way. It wouldn't be long before Big Walsh and his crew will be brought down in a sting operation by the New Orleans Drugs, Gangs, and Violent Crimes Unit.
One day after the WDSUI team broke the story about another sweeping gang indictment in just over a month, the district attorney and the NOPD are speaking out.
Last month, 15 members of the 110ers gang were charged in a racketeering indictment involving guns, drugs, and murder. Today, similar charges against 20 men with the 3NG gang, also based uptown. 2 men are still on the run, however, Kentrell Hickerson and Kevin Lynch. WDSU anchor Rachel Wolf tells us more about the DA's plans and what public defenders are saying about the case.
We will use every weapon in our arsenal to bring them to justice.
Orleans Parish District Attorney Leon Canizero was firm as he described a 30-count racketeering indictment against 20 men in the 3NG gang. He says the group conspired to distribute illegal drugs and used violence to gain and maintain control over the area where it operated near 3rd Street in South Galvez.
They don't show any breaks to the people of this community. We're going to give them no breaks either.
Authorities say the 3NG gang is responsible for at least 10 murders in the last 5 years, including little Kiara Holmes, killed during a drive-by just before her 2nd birthday in late 2011.
Another baby killed at the ruthless, reckless, cowardly behavior of these gangs.
37 years old at the time, Washington Big Walsh McCaskill would look to get some time knocked off his 80-year sentence by confessing to being an enforcer as part of a violent street gang. As part of his deal with the government, Walsh would also testify at the Telly Hankton trial, the 3NG trial, and the Kentrell Black Hickerson trial.